This is part 9 in the progress report of the MBTA slash parking garage and intermodal train station. So anyway, it is September 21st, and as usual I do sort of a recap video, so progress from here isn't far off from the last video. And here we are again. And over here in the elevator shaft, it doesn't seem they haven't done much of anything. However, they once again packed dirt into the voids where they're going to ultimately pour the floor. Nothing new in terms of plumbing for both the drainage or elevator hydraulic system. And we still have those 3 or 4, it's hard to tell at certain angles, rebar structures for pads. And as I was saying, I wasn't sure if those were going there or to another section. Apparently they have now moved everything off the street side of things, almost everything. I mean, you can still see some stuff there, but where they did clear, they've marked off positions where a footing and pillar will go. So we got that progress for you right there. Still got the plumbing stack there. And over here we have a new set of rebar that was trucked in. And over here nothing much has actually changed. It's still just as it was, except that they're taking the forms off of the walls over there. And we're going to stop the camera, head to the other side, and show you what was over there. We're here on the other side where they were doing these new footings, and as you can see, they've put the rebar in. I thought the rebar that I was showing you in the very beginning, we're going to go in those holes here, there, and one right here, which, yeah, I get it this time. They still have not continued progress that way. And apparently they've got some barriers to hold back the dirt. They don't look all too sturdy. I'm hoping that was just hastily put together just to get it intact. If that's how they actually are, I wouldn't feel safe in those. So we got some more rebar over here in front of us. And I'll show you some more stuff, and while I'm heading this way, I'm telling you, the time I normally come here, it's getting dark, so I might be limited to Saturdays to do this, and there'll be some Saturdays I will not be able to make updates, but I'm playing it by ear, so not 100% sure on my timing. Anyway, now that we're here, we got, as I said, the forms coming off. The forms for that wall right there in the center, they're still attached. You can't see it because people are in the way. They got the forms off on the other side. And right there in the center, you can see there's another pillar marked off. So perhaps indeed this section is going to be parking as well. So that is the update as of now, and we will continue as things warrant, and it might be on Saturdays pretty soon. September 25th, 2012. Where are the tubes? There's a couple right next to the elevator shaft, and they're doing some work in this cavity, which I still don't understand why it's a cavity. If anything in there fails, how do you get to it? That's a good question. Maybe it'll reveal itself. Meanwhile, nothing really happening in the elevator shaft, but there is some major progress. If we look across the way, look at that. We got footings. Well, the formations at least. However, they stop right about, well, you can't see it, but it does stop because it doesn't meet up with the other side yet. And speaking of the other side, let's go over and see what's going on over there, because there's progress there too. Alright, before we get to the other side, which isn't very far from here, they capped off the pipes in which are the drains for the upper levels. They have laid the pipe down there, and There's one behind that pillar. That form is still drying. And whatever was in that hole, they have finally removed, so they can put a pillar in right there. It's kind of funny, because these pillars right there are just a separate pad in which a column is placed. Whereas over here, over there and beyond, like the center wall and the wall I just shown you previously, has a footing that runs along its length. And there's a pipe right there, which you could not see. And again, there's that pipe, and they're running one right there. And you can see we got all this new sand, which will be used to backfill. They'll pound it in, and they'll continue this vapor barrier and gravel. Anyway, as I said, we are very close to the end that I want to show you. And pardon the jitters, I am walking fast, and I want to try to keep editing to a bare minimum. We can't really see it here, unfortunately, as much as I would like to. But you can kind of see right in the middle there, right in the very middle over there, we have rebar for columns. And if we step over here, actually this isn't too bad a spot, but they've started making the footings over here, and as you can see, those red land dividers, they're really not that stable. You can see they're putting up the walls and ones for the columns as well. There's another wall section. I mean, it goes pretty much right up to grade level. If any of these closer parts appear a tad blurry, that's because I got it on manual focus, and I have it set at as I would call it, a happy medium, so that everything far and close will appear somewhat clear. As we can see here, this is a better shot. We get the footings and the pads. Well, that pad came out kind of weird, didn't it? You can tell it was done in multiple parts. But the column's is on a solid section, and we got more over there. And getting a tight, whoa, almost fell over. Getting a tight grip over here. We can see they've gone as far as here when they poured the concrete, and they did not have the rebar over here just yet, which we will come down here to see because it shows up a lot better. Well, maybe. But it does show up. There we go. And that's the update we got here. And we'll get a closer look at what they've done over here as we walk around. I'll stop the video till we get to that point. And here's another corner post. Can't really see it, but right where I'm pointing, well, you can. They haven't dug quite yet. They haven't met to that, to where we've just shown you where they put a column. They just started right about here, digging the footings, which again follow the hill. As I will show you that, especially right here, you can see right in the middle there's a step down. It's kind of hard to show because it's dark, so you can kind of see everything's kind of lit by other lights. And for some reason they actually started here instead of starting where the forms are, probably for safety, because here it is again, and here are the forms. I haven't laid any rebar in them yet, but as you can see, it steps down with the grade, and there's another step down right there. And I'm kind of watching for traffic too, which that guy didn't have his lights on. Good job. and a step down there. And this is as far as they've gone up front, which yesterday none of this literally even existed. So I mean, in some ways they move, other places they tend to drag their butt. Like this wall over here, now that we're on the other side of the front side of where the elevator shaft is, they still haven't done anything with that. However, I know you can't really see it, but right behind that crane, they actually did form and pour concrete into that. So they've done something with this section at the least, finally. And they left their lights on. And here are all the weights used to hold back those big walls when they were pouring those giant center sections. And next video will show you further progress, obviously. October 8th, 2012. Not really much to see because weather hasn't been 100% cooperative. But as you can see, they've poured the forms and they got the rebar for both the walls and the columns. And over here, this gaping hole is the second entrance, upper level, to the parking garage. And down there, we'll show you that a little later. We're doing this in reverse order because it gets too dark now. As I come up here to Railfan, and when the trains are gone, it's pitch dark at this point. So let's go this way a little bit and we'll show you what else has happened. And there has been some progress from the last video. For example, they've poured most of these walls, like right there. They poured that one, but they never poured that middle piece. And as we go up the hill, you can see the backside of this particular wall. And now they've put the retention, the steel retention wall where the train station itself is. So a section over here they have not yet poured. And down here, for some reason, the leftover concrete is along here, so when it snows or rains, this will be a nice little cascade or death trap when it's ice. And we can see they poured one section of wall over there, and really hard to see here, but yes, we got another piece of wall over here. And we'll look a little further along. It seems they've done more. Okay, we're here at the top. This doesn't really look too much different. I mean, they got some, makeshift barricades so people are reminded not to walk too far. And they got the gravel up to this point. And what's really hard to see because of this wall is they finally dug out everything else, so now this whole thing is for the most part connected. They got the forms and the rebar done there, and they made the corner to meet up over there to that post over there. So that's what's new on this side, and apparently the continuous structure stops right there because there's no need for it over here where all these pillars are separate entities amongst themselves. Okay, on this end, we can see over on the far end, they're starting to form the walls for the street side of things, and on the exact opposite side of that black wall, because the one closest to us hasn't been done yet, will be the new sidewalk. And as you might have seen, they finally made that pillar in the center, and this wall is still just standing there loose. No attention whatsoever, and the elevator shaft is still exactly the way it was, except that the water drainage pipe that goes to the upper levels of that probably will go to the roof is leaning a little more than it has before. You got some more tubes there, and you can't really see it, but over where that opening is, way up there, you're not gonna, actually you can see them. We got tubes there. And that's the update for October 8th, 2011. At this point, it might almost have to be on Saturdays now. I'm doing this, like I said, in reverse order. Let's see what's next. October 11th, 2012. This center portion is now being taken care of. Just recently, they've started making these 3 columns. Not sure if the forms have been poured for those 2. They got the wire for that one. And that's what we got here. Also seen here, they've poured the footing for this final segment that meets up to that pillar over there. Also, what isn't shown is, actually you might be able to see it. Yeah, just barely. Right there. Those 3 sections of wall, the plywood has been removed. So that's what we have for today. More as it comes. November 10th, 2011 or 2012. Anyway, whichever one you decide on. There hasn't been a lot of progress, but then again, we've also had some progress. They're digging up the ground because they were rerouting some of the sewage system, and they pushed the fence back so we can sort of get out of the road. And this pushing the fence back is probably a symbol of we've done enough. And over here, probably get a better look at it up top. They're doing more plumbing work. They've apparently dug out the center there, and they're digging around there. This is the drainage system going around the garage pretty much. And they got this wall over here done. Let's cut across the street for the time being. And this wall took them forever, and it was also the last one they did. And as we zoom in, you can see why. It's because they have that little setback in each wall. That's where the steel plates for the architectural design are going. And we're safe to cross again. Here it is a little closer. And during all this time, they did finally make up that final wall, again for the same reason as the front, because it has a detail for which metal plates are going in, and they did that pillar. And again, this is all dug up for drainage. That's the next step. And while they were at it, they've added some, well, that's not one of them, but they've added some more structure. And we'll look at that as we are on the opposite side at the top. As we're heading up the ramp towards the station, we got this scaffolding structure here. This is to help prevent direct snowfall and rain from hitting here and freezing up. Although any wind, this will be pretty much useless. Points for effort. Anyways, we come around the corner, and good, the station's empty. We're going to show you some of the progress that's better visible up here. For example, when they did this wall right there, they graded everything just a few inches shy of where it's going to ultimately go. And over here we can see where the entrance to this platform is going to go. And it's going to go right over here, where this opening is. Now that things are starting to come together, I think this section's going to be the big bus turnaround area. This is going to be the bus stop, as it's hard to see in this viewfinder, but right about there is one entry point, and right there's another entry point, and just on the other side of the wall is a third entry point, in which at least on the lowest level, is the end of the parking garage itself. Now here's the thing I don't quite get. Here's this wall, which hasn't been totally framed in yet and poured. And as you can see, the bus turnaround is below the grade of this. Now my question is, how would anyone that's handicapped get up here? Are they going to be forced to go all the way down there and up that long ramp? Not a very smart design. I mean, something might be not visible here that we're just not going to know till they start doing stuff. And again, over here is where the garage turns around. And over here, they finish this whole wall and the grade drops down. And over here, I gotta block the sun. I think that might be a ramp heading up. Then over here, we'll go to the other side. We can see with clarity now that we're doing this on Saturday mornings, we have plates in which apparently the beams are gonna go into. And as you can see, it kind of follows a pattern in an incline right up to there. And this is the only section of the garage where there isn't a wall, so they have individual pillars. And this section's pretty much all closed off. They did everything they're going to do until the steel comes in. So you can see from the drains in the previous videos, they've capped them off. This was one of the last walls that they were putting in. And that's where the very bottom is going to be. And again, those steel plates indicate where the grade of the garage is going. And from up here, we can finally see the walls that they have neglected for the longest time ever. They finally poured. And I'll show you a little something while we're here. Actually, we'll show you more than a little of something because, like I said, up here, it's a lot more visible. Right here, we can see that they're digging out trenches for drainage and for sewage, I believe. Again, there's that wall. And this wall here has been, like the ones up at the very front, were left till last because when we go over here, we can see that just like the others, there's a little indent for where the steel structure is going to go. I shouldn't say steel structure, steel panels. They're going to be decorative, I believe tan colored. And of course, nothing has ever happened to the stairwell / elevator shaft. And I still don't quite get why there's plumbing in this void. And like I said, hopefully there's going to be a way in there, because if something breaks in that section, yeah, you ain't getting to it. Not without breaking walls. So that's what we got right now in this segment of progress of this garage. November 24th, 2011, on a very windy day. You might not be able to hear me, but then again, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. You can see here nothing's been done with the elevator shaft, but you might have noticed a little something at the very top. Let's zoom out. They've paved the driveway, and to show how cheap the government job is, the first floor of the parking garage is paved. So they got that much done. And sadly, I think that's all they're going to be able to get until the spring, because it hasn't been warm enough to pour concrete for quite a while, and I don't think it's going to get that warm anytime soon. So we have a correction that they're making over here, which right there, they poured the footing to match that wall when it should have matched that wall. So they're doing a little addition there. But again, they haven't really poured any concrete because, well, you can't. And while we're at it, here's where paved road meets up to where the steel frame goes. That's where beam's gonna get attached there and follow up and make its circular path. Now, over here, we can see that they didn't pave a corner. It's because apparently that's going to be a stairwell. And speaking of stairwells, it goes to that opening right there. And in the last segment, I was wondering how people were gonna get up and about from the MBTA, or should I say the MART bus turnaround, or the bus station. They prove themselves a little later on. See, the stairwell meets at that opening over there and comes out to this opening here. We gotta go around to show you how they're doing that. As you can see, they're nowhere near done the road surface there. That's all knocked over. No idea why. It's been windy, but not remotely that bad. Alright, it reveals itself here. And that, it's hard to see. They got it covered up, but let me try to get a better shot here. There we go. It's a handicapped access ramp that's gonna go around, then somehow meet up with that opening. Again, just shows it's another cheap half-ass project being done in the half-ass manner. So that's what we got. December 9th, 2012. There isn't much to do here. They backfilled in this void, and if you remember, there's plumbing under there. So if the plumbing under there leaks, how are you going to get to it without destroying this part of the building? Not well thought out. And per usual, the elevator shaft portion, nothing's been done. This portion here, it's unpaved. It's probably going to be concrete slab. That's what I think. And we know all that's going to be. But the progress is further up there. CCS Constructor Steel and Precast. I guess they're getting ready for the steel. But before we do that, let's look at the progress that did occur. And it's here in what is the bus turnaround, as I now figured out. We got the grading done for the handicapped ramp that goes obviously to the top. And over there, that angled part will be the stairwell. There is no formation of stairs because they haven't poured concrete. Right now it's just a slope. And just like they did in the parking garage section, they went the El Cheapo method and paved this section. We just get to over here. Here we go, now we get a good look at it. That'll be a pretty tight turn. And here's a gentle sweeping turn, and it's paved all the way to the edges. And it all meets to the stairs over there and the ramp, which is right at the foot of that trailer. And I think the centers will be concrete, not sure. I think they might not be doing any more of that until the spring. And we got curbing over here. The camera wants to focus on the fence instead of that. There we go. think they're going to probably line all this up with the curbing. Anyway, so since the steel might be the next step, I'm going to end this episode with this video. So this is George F551 saying, hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you'll enjoy the next one. Have a good one.